Welcome to the Do Good Word podcast. Today we're talking about balanced leadership, how to direct your energy to the activities that will make a lasting impact in your company. And it's no surprise, as leaders and founders, we spent a bulk of our time processing information and thinking. Now, I'll give you a real hard stat. There is a report done on the exact breakdown of how one CEO spent his first 2 years building a company. I'll link that in the show notes below. It's a pretty good read. But for this founder, they're a technical founder. They spent about 24% in the last 2 years, or the 2 years of this study of tracking tasks and times on the calendar, 24% just processing information. Just think about it this way. When you're going into your workday, the average founder and leader works, I would say, 10 hours a day, possibly, sometimes 12. Let's just keep it at 10. That means that 20% of that time is spent just literally processing information and identifying, is this information useful? Should I use it now? Can I implement it? Is this relevant? And thinking. And that takes a lot of brain power and pretty much human brain computing energy. So that's why a lot of us in front of our screens tend to get kind of hungry just to fuel our brains. But it's pretty interesting. In contrast, huge contrast to only 4% of technical work. And it's kind of interesting. I'll go ahead and send this. I'll put this in the show notes. But it's no surprise that we do spend most of our time processing information. And this information, the key thing is, look, this is the 20% of the time that drives 80% of the actions. This is literally the Pareto's principle, because when you process information, you collaborate with others and drive your team's actions based on information. With this information, you either got to decide, take action today or take action tomorrow, or don't take any action. And that drives what your team gets to do today, this week, this month, this quarter, this year. And if we focus on the wrong information, I can't begin to tell you how much that actually costs in terms of lost time, lost opportunities, lower return on effort, lower return on investment, and just it's not a good ideal. So as leaders, it's important for us to balance how we're focusing our energy to the right information, making sure, this is your number one job, making sure that we execute the right actions. The first step to doing is to set the cadence. So effective communication, effective is a key word here. Communication is a master art of leadership, but it's only one half of the puzzle. The missing link is effective listening. And I'll say that again, listening. I know it's kind of obvious, right? But let's dive into what that actually means. So to start listening more effectively, I highly recommend working with your teams to get a state of the union from your team leaders, directors, or managers. You can do this synchronously or asynchronously. Synchronously being you get on a meeting right now and you talk to them, get an update. Or you can do this asynchronously by sending a voicemail, getting a Slack message back, so on and so forth. You can do this daily or weekly. But the most important purpose is that you have to set the cadence, and then you have to have this communication, making sure that you're getting the right information coming back up to you and not being afraid of seeing the hard facts. And this is one of the key things too, is that you can't have your team just tell you what you want to hear. You got to actually be open and willing to show me the hard facts. One of the ways I do this, one of the ways I recommend in Productive Profits is to set up the 15-minute power meeting. The reason why it's a 15-minute power meeting is because, one, it eliminates the excuse of saying, I don't have time. And two, you can do this weekly. Everyone has time for a 15-minute weekly meeting. And you know me, I'm against unnecessary meetings. So when you have these types of meetings, you can supercharge the cadence of communication between you and your teams. And I can tell you already, just doing this small meeting, it literally gets done in 15 minutes. We can really go through high-level initiatives, opportunities, and issues. And I'll talk about that next. Now, when you're having these meetings, here's the one question that successful leaders ask. Before you actually meddle into the trivial issues that happen day to day with your teams, before you actually go down to what's going on over here? What's Joey doing? What's happening over here with this person? Before you go down into all those things or talking about how your coffee was this morning, got to ask the questions, what opportunities exist right now? I'll repeat that. What opportunities exist right now? You got to ask that from your team leads. If they don't know, they shouldn't be a team lead. Plain and simple. Or you can train them to become a better team lead by having them focus on the opportunities. And this is the reason why we want to focus on opportunities first, is because when you do this enough with all of your teams or your team, or you're just one team, or your one department, when you do this enough, the top 2 to 3, maybe 5, to be honest with you, you probably won't have 5, but the top 2 or 3 opportunities will stop or start to rise to the top every single time. And when you do this, you can have your entire company, your entire department start focusing only on these top opportunities. And I know we talk about opportunities first instead of talking about, oh, what's the things that we can solve? What's your issues list? Whatever. The reason why we focus on opportunities is because when you solve an opportunity, you also have to solve the underlying issue that gets in the way of fully maximizing your position on that opportunity. So it's literally 2 birds, 1 stone. Sorry for the birds, but still, you're able to focus on progress. And the key thing, the question, what opportunities exist right now, always has you reframe this question, because once you solve an opportunity, you move forward, things shift, things change. And this is not to encourage shiny object syndrome. This is to encourage centralized, unified, synergistic, focused thinking. And when you do this, you'll empower your teams to drive real change and ultimately make progress faster. Okay. And this is where it leads to the one task, or pretty much the essential task of a leader. And I know you're thinking, well, Raul, as a leader, there's a lot of things that are important, but I can guarantee you, willing to put money down on this, that the most important task that you have right now as a leader is to orchestrate action. Orchestrate action. Just imagine that you're orchestrating a symphony of teams executing and making things happen. You're getting out of the way of the music and just letting them shine. Because your team needs to know what they need to be working on. They need to know and be empowered to have the right tools, resources, information, and access to execute. And you as a leader have to remove any roadblock or barrier getting in their way towards progress. And sometimes that includes you getting out of the way. And when you direct your team's actions towards progress and opportunities, again, focusing on those opportunities and solving the problems along the way to reach those opportunities, the rhythm of your company's beat will start increasing progressively and start getting to a really good rhythm. And your team will be able to execute more fluidly and more effectively, and potentially, in high asterisks here, italicized, potentially, to the point where you, the leader, become non-essential for your team to drive change. I'll say that again. To the point where you become irrelevant. That's a little scary to think about. Obviously, you're not going to become irrelevant to the company, but when you think about that, isn't it weird to think that your team can actually live and move on without you? That is actually a mark of success. That is a mark of success of how you lead. It's a weird feeling. Trust me, I've been there. But when you build a powerhouse of a team, you'll get used to it and you'll be able to focus on bigger drivers of growth for your organization, for your company, for your team. So to recap, key things here to making sure that we focus your activities on the most important actions that will make a lasting impact is to set the cadence. First thing, set the cadence of communication, how you're going to get communication from team leads, making sure that you ask the one important question, what opportunities exist right now? And then finally, making sure that you orchestrate change, you orchestrate action, you remove the roadblocks, you get out of the way, you empower teams, and you fuel them to future growth and drive. It's Raul Hernandez. Do good work.